It's so 80s, I almost got a mullet reading it. Reading on for the Evilathon, and I've read these two books, Richard Laymon's Beware and Dark Mountain, and I got only one prompt out of them. Oh well, as I said in previous reviews of Richard Laymon, I like reading his books to back or very close because it feels like a two-in-one drive-in movie. You know, this grindhouse type of books he wrote in the 80s, and these are two of his 80s books. Beware was published in 1995, and Dark Mountain was first published in his pen name Richard Kelly in 1987. It had a different name, but I cannot recall it right now. I think it was Dropper Trails or something. There'll probably be some text in the scene with the correct title. But nevertheless, I've read Dark Mountain hoping it will do with the two of the prompts from Evilathon, but I only got one. And I read Beware, just hoping there will be another of the prompts there. There was not. So yeah, that's life. That's what you get with the readathons. Let's start with Beware, because that was the book I wanted to read. And of course, the entire Evilathon, hosted by Kassa's Book Cemetery, is based on Richard Laymon books. None of these books are in the prompts, but whatever. I want to read Beware because I saw the blurb in with the Serbs channel. Anna did that, and I was like, this sounds cool, I want to read it. It's about a small town in California, and we have this supermarket, and this lady is hearing noises, and then they found her chopped on the chopping block, so it sounds awesome. And I read some reviews that were about a cult, so it sounded awesome, and it was not what I was expecting. And mind you, both those books have their issues. They have major issues with their tonal inconsistencies. So in Beware, we have this small town, and we have this woman, Elsie, who has a shop, and she goes to the bar next door and says, I heard noises, there was someone in my shop. The bartender leaves her his dog, and they find the dog slaughtered, and then the bartender and the woman stay vigilant, and they find them also butchered. And a young reporter who was also on the bar goes in the shop, and she's assaulted by somebody. She's unconscious, and she wakes up naked and violated. Yes, it's a Laymon book, so expect this kind of stuff to be there. It's a trigger warning for almost every Laymon book, that there will be sexual violence. So and up to this point, the novel is working great, and there's a second story about this detective who's trying to save a girl from a voodoo cult, and he's watching a sex orgy with human sacrifice and all, and he gets all naked and goes into the orgy and grabs her and gets away, and it was so cheesy. I just loved it. And this book, at its best, it's very tense and very cheesy. It's so 80s, I almost got a mullet reading it. So you get the idea. The reporter is assaulted, and she goes to her place. She thinks that somebody may be in her car. She tries to find the person who assaulted her in her car, and she's looking for him, and yada yada yada. And then she goes into her house along with one of her neighbors, and she's assaulted again and again, and that's because the killer has some ability that is not of this earth. It's a supernatural ability, and that makes him a great hunter. And so what he does is he goes away to a hotel, and there he meets a crime author, and oh my, there's a flirting scene that was ultra cheesy with those two in the pool, and of course the killer is on her trail. Meanwhile, the super duper detective, who was a very 80s type detective, he's the super detective, and he is awesome, and he has to fight the cultists who go for the girl he saved. And yeah, and at the same time we have the reporter and the author, who are constantly on the run and seized by the killer. Up to this point, the book is very tense, and then we got to the half mark, and it changed a lot, and I could or could not count this as for the prompt No Sanctuary, read a book of people trapped somewhere, because the two protagonists are constantly trapped somewhere. They're trapped in a hotel room, they're trapped in a house in the wilderness, the reporter is trapped in her house earlier on. But I don't think this will count, and I think the book I'm currently reading will cover this prompt, so no. This book did no prompts for me, but at the half point and onwards, I felt it fell apart, because up to that point the killer was very threatening. It was an interesting mix of tension, and then it all goes bonkers. It just goes bonkers because we have some shallow characters, really. The assaulter is cartoonishly evil to the point that he is, you can believe he can be that evil, that kind of psychopath. The reporter and the author are so-so. Their dialogue is good, but they don't stand out too much. The detective is he starts like a cliche, and then he is kind of mellowing out in the way. The evil cult is mostly unexplored, some nice stuff are happening, but from the middle and after I felt that tension was really lagging, and I didn't enjoy it that much, so it was a so-so. It's a pass. If you're starting Laymon, it's a pass. That's Beware. Now let's go Dark Mountain. I read Dark Mountain, feeling that it will cover the blood games. Read a book that drove a group of friends go to play 6 and start dying, as well as Island. Read a book about a trip that ends bad, and only the prompt Island is covered in this book because the group of friends are not dying, or they're not dying enough to cover this prompt. It's about families. They go for hiking in the mountains. The two families are kind of interesting because the husbands are pilots. They go together. One of the fathers has PTSD from Vietnam because he was a pilot there and he fell behind enemy lines, and he has flashbacks to it during the book. The other family, the father is divorced and he brings along his new girlfriend and also his 2 children. His 13-year-old son has a crush on the new girlfriend, but the 16-year-old daughter she will not take it. And where they're going for hiking, there are another 2 inhabitants. There is Witch and her son, who is hulking rapist, and those 2 are just they're straight out of a Hanna-Barbera cartoon. They're so cartoonishly evil and jokey that they really ruined the book for me. Couldn't feel any tension for the hiking part. I have to admit that the 2 families had an interesting dynamic. If it was a literary book about family troubles, they could make it work. There should have been a little more drama. Again, Richard Laymon he was writing some sleazy books about rape and murder, but he had a talent and he had a way with characters and dialogue, and I really like that. Even the cheesy parts of Beware were in tune with trying to replicate a movie like Cobra from the 80s, and in Dark Mountain he's seriously going for a more serious approach to the Cabin in the Woods type of story. But of course the antagonists are not making it seem tense at all. There's a tonal shift that is way too much, and as we progress into the story, the son is assaulting the women, the girlfriend and the daughter, and the families kill him, and so the Witch curses them with bad luck. And here's the good part, because they return to LA and shit starts to go wrong. There's an amazing scene with a dog assaulting some of the family members that was clearly great. It was worth reading the book just for the scene. It was very suspenseful and horrifying in a way, not too gory, but it was intense. This book has some very good parts. Dark Mountain, in some little waste, I was like, oh, that's trash. I was going to start this book on Goodreads. I gave it 3 stars just because of this dog scene, and after their first set of bad luck, they return to the mountains. Those who are still standing, they return to the mountains to deal with the hag, and it was decent, a bit rushed ending, but most Laymon books tend to be rushed towards the end. There was some weird shit going on. The hag was kind of threatening eventually. I mean, she was really worth it. But if we never saw the two antagonists before the sun goes into the cabin, or if they were not so cartoonishly, I think this book would have been much better. But overall, the tonal shifts were not that great. They kept the book down. It was not that good because of it. Some parts worked, but there was a bit of clash between different elements. So neither of these books did satisfy me. I ticked off the holidays that are deadly prompt of the list, so that makes it 4 after having read 4 books. So I'm okay. Actually, I'm 4 out of reading 5 books, but that's another video. So that was my review for Beware and Dark Mountain by Richard Laymon. That's Volume 4 from the British Laymon Collection. Quite a slim book, it's 500 pages. Overall, Beware is 200 pages and Dark Mountain is 300 pages. So yeah, they were fun, but only for Laymon completes, I guess. Then I think that the early tomes are so. I mean, okay, the seller is great. I was not impressed by Out of the Lights and The Woods Are Dark, especially Out of the Lights. I think it was one of the weakest Laymon novels. I pretty much like the third volume with, yeah, there's a review up there for the third volume. It was Night Show and All Hallows Eve. That was also weak. Flesh and Resurrection Dreams are actually quite good, especially Resurrection Dreams is a ton of fun. And Volume 6, The Stake and Funland, they were excellent. I haven't reviewed these ones because I've read over a decade ago. But yeah, if you want reviews for these books from what I remember about them, leave a comment below. As always, thank you for watching and stay spooky.